Washington has talked about an axis of evil overseas. Well, there is an axis of evil here at home. Oppression, suppression, and repression.
When you fail to be all that you can be, just remember that freedom ain't never being free.
I watched Jesse. I watched Andy. I watched CT. So I'm not scared at the Jordan because I know the same God that opened up the Red Sea in Birmingham is the same God that will open up the Jordan in the 21st century. Stretch your rod out, Reverend.
When we stand together, black and white and Latino and Asian American and Native American, when we stand together, the future is ours.
I am so happy to be honored. I love Rainbow Push. I love Reverend Jackson. I love what I do. I love people, and I love Jesus. Hi!
Good girl.
Coalition. We are live from 930 East 50th Street. We're live in Chicago. Reverend Jackson is here. We are live on Impact Network. It's the only African American owned and operated Christian network in the United States of America. It's available to 75 million cable and satellite subscribers. You need to check us out. Tell your friends to check it out. Go to DirecTV. We're on the Dish Network. We're on Time Warner. We're on the Spectrum, Bright House Spectrum, and Cable Bahamas. We want to thank Bishop Jackson, President and CEO of the Impact Network, for your partnership with us. We're also, if you want to look for us on DirecTV, we're on channel 380. Dish Network, we're on channel 268. Xfinity on Comcast, check your local listing. We're on Charter Time Warner, check your local listing. AT&T Uverse is going to be picking us up in August. And now, if you want to watch us on social media, we're on Twitter at Rev J Jackson, at RPC Coalition. We're on Instagram at Rev J Jackson, at RP Coalition. We're on Facebook, Reverend Jesse L. Jackson Sr. We're on Facebook at the Rainbow Push Coalition. We're on Facebook at Push Excel. You need to join us on whatever platform makes it work for you. We're on Periscope at Rev J Jackson, at Rainbow Coalition. We're on YouTube. There's no reason why you can't get us. We're on iHeartMedia, iHeartRadio. We're live all over the world. Join us. Tell your friends. Text somebody. Tweet somebody. Tell them to join us at Rainbow Push this morning. We will overcome.
I do believe we shall overcome someday.
You're live and you're watching the Rainbow Push Coalition. We have a lot of ground to cover. We have a lot of information today. We're dedicating this broadcast to many of our founders. Reverend Granger Browning, Sr., the father of our board member, the Reverend Granger Browning, Jr., made his transition this week. We are praying for the Browning family. We're praying for the family of Willie Cooper, a young Chicago activist who was in the streets every day fighting against violence, was killed this past week. And so we're praying for that family and all of his friends who are with him, with the family today as they are funeralizing him. This broadcast is dedicated to a very special woman. She is Miss Gertrude Brown. She's the mother of Mrs. Jacqueline Jackson, and she is the grandmother of all of the Jackson and Brown children. We thank God for the life of Miss Gertrude Brown. Jonathan will share some information about her later in the broadcast. But we dedicate this broadcast to her memory, her life. She spent a lifetime focused on education, and she's just a model of what we ought to do and never give up on ourselves and on our children. We also are dedicating this broadcast to Miss Barbara Boutte, the widow of the late banker Al Boutte, one of our founding board members. And then as we move forward in this day, we think about a freedom fighter who became president of South Africa, none other than President Nelson Mandela. His birthday was this week, and many celebrated a day of service in his memory. And now as our choir comes and our musicians come to give us a musical selection, I want you to think about how it is you need to be involved and more engaged. Generally, we think about just watching the broadcast and from the comfort of your homes. Every week, Jonathan tells you you ought to bring your children, you ought to show up here at Push. Well, I think you ought to not only show up, but you ought to be investing some time and energy in the work that we're doing. One, as you look at the country and the nation, we are finding a move by the Secretary of Education and others in states across this nation to privatize public education, to privatize public services. And so when you have a Secretary of Education like Betsy DeVos, who is moving to make room for these private companies to not only privatize K-12, but also privatize colleges. Many of our students are in student loan debt because they are going to these private schools that are not necessarily a track to a career or a track to a qualified degree. They are just a track to take your money, put you in debt, and then you will be unemployed upon graduation from these private, for-profit institutions. And so we're saying to parents, if your child is in kindergarten all the way through college, you need to be involved in Push Excel as we begin to challenge these state governments across the nation, including Illinois, as we fight for public education, as we fight for more investment in our public schools. In Chicago, as an example, the governor and the state has agreed to a budget that does not provide for a high-quality public education for every child. So you see our children are still not getting science, technology, engineering, and math in Chicago in the same way they're getting science, technology, engineering, and math and the arts in the suburban affluent districts. We're still giving education to the rich and allowing our children who are poor to not get an adequate education. They are not getting a competitive opportunity. They don't have music, they don't have art. Many of them don't have gym every week. It's unfair, it's unjust, and we're gonna fight against it. If you wanna join the fight, if you're a parent, call right now, 773-256-2700, 2775. If you are a parent, a grandparent, call us right now. Our choir is going to bring us a musical selection at this time, and we'll be moving higher in the broadcast.
Come on, put your hands together. Come on, let me see you clap your hands, everybody. Tragedies are commonplace. All kinds of diseases. People are slipping away. The economy's down. People can't get enough pay. But as for me, come on, all I can say is thank you, Lord, for all you've done for. Come on, clap your hands, everybody. Come on. Folks without homes, living all in the streets. The drug habit, some say they just can't beat. Muggers and robbers, no place seem to be safe. But you've been my protector every step of the way. So I want to say thank you, Lord, for all you've done for. Listen, y'all. Hey, see, it could have been me. Come on, outdoors with no food and no clothes. Come on, oh, just alone without one friend. Oh, just another number with the tragic end. But it didn't seem fit to let none of these needs be. But every day by his power, he keep on keeping me. I gotta say thank you, Lord, for all. Yeah, yeah. See, it could have been me. Come on, outdoors with no and no clothes. How many? Just alone without one friend. Oh, just another number with the tragic end. But it didn't seem fit to let none of these things be. But every day by his power, he keep on keeping me. So I want to say, come on, put your hands together, everybody. Hey, so listen, say, thank you, Lord.
Thank you, Lord.
Say thank you, Lord.
Thank you, Lord.
Say thank you, Lord.
Thank you, Lord.
Say thank you, Lord.
Thank you, Lord.
Think about his goodness,
Thank you, Lord.
how he saved you,
Thank you, Lord.
how he protected your children.
Thank you, Lord.
Say thank you, Lord.
Thank you,
Come on, Lord, I thank you. Say thank you, Lord.
thank you, Lord.
Thank you, Lord.
Thank you,
Say thank you, Lord. Somebody make some noise in here if you're glad God is a good God. Come on, put your hands together.
And now, it is my pleasure to present to you one aspect of our Push Excel programs. We have a STEAM program, a science, technology, engineering, arts, and math, and even introduction to the medical science, the healthcare careers. But every week, you get to experience one of our oratorical students, because we want our students to be able to build robots and do coding and apps, and we want our young people to design websites, but also the performing arts, extremely important. And speech is one of the arts that Judge Stanley Hill has been working diligently with us across the years. This young man is Keenan Tolley. He's a third grader. He's at Christ Our Savior School. He has the unique pleasure of presenting his oratorical recitation and introducing our founder. Greet him warmly as he comes in his own way.
My name is Keenan Tolley. I am 9 years old, and I am happy God allowed me to be here today. And to show you how happy I am, I have a gift for you. And that gift is Democracy by Langston Hughes. Democracy will not come today, this year, nor ever, through compromise and fear. I have as much right as the other fellow has to stand on my 2 feet and own the land. I tire so if people say, let things take their course. Tomorrow is another day. I do not need freedom when I'm dead. I cannot live on tomorrow's bread. Freedom is a great seed planted in a great need. I live here too. I want freedom just as you. And now I am happy to introduce my hero, Reverend Jesse L. Jackson Sr.
Everybody shout freedom, freedom, oh, freedom. Yes, freedom, oh, freedom. Yes, freedom, oh, freedom. Yes, freedom. Hey, come on and say freedom. We give us freedom. Oh, freedom. Yeah, freedom.
Say I am somebody. I am somebody. I am somebody. I deserve a job. Respect me. Protect me. Never neglect me. Stop the violence. Save the children. If my mind can conceive it and my heart can believe it, I know I can achieve it. I am somebody. I am God's child. Never surrender. Keep hope alive. Keep hope alive. Keep hope alive.
Ah, yeah. Freedom. Oh, freedom. Yeah, freedom. Oh, freedom. Oh, freedom. Yes, freedom. You give us freedom. Oh, freedom.
Put your hands together. Let me express my thanks to so many of you who've sent condolences to our family on the passing of my mother-in-law for 55 years, and the funeral will be this coming Monday morning in Washington, D.C. at the Rankin Chapel on Howard's campus. We thank God for a life well lived, a woman who lived to be 90 years old but never stopped living. And she won't stop living though she's dead. A woman with such a great narrative. An orphan, 4 babies before she was 18, an orphan living under dire poverty, picking cotton and chopping fruit, and yet moved to Virginia, stabilized her family, sent 5 children to college, went back and got a GED at 51 or 2, went to Nelson Junior Community College, finished at 55, went back to Hampton, finished Hampton University at 61, got a master's at 62. Give her a big hand for the life. We thank God for her life, for living, and pray for our families as we go through this season of challenge. Let me make several observations. One is that yesterday morning, Rainbow Push and ACA have coordinated a campaign demanding that we build a jobs bank. There are no hotels in town should be having banquets where we're not waiting tables. So every restaurant should have black waiters and waitresses. Black waiters and waitresses. Black jobs matter. Every building built in our community, we have architects and contractors and painters and glazers. Whenever a school or a church or a home is built, we should build it. We can do landscaping. We can cut grass. We can rake leaves. We will fight for jobs and justice. Fight for jobs and justice. Put your hands together if you mean that. We came with our picket signs yesterday and closed that site down on 22nd and Moorbash. The first thing the superintendent said was, we can hire 2 black carpenters right now. So you could have hired them before we got here. But we wouldn't settle for 2 black carpenters. We're going to be the president of the whole company. The company has 385 stores. So we have a right to build every store, certainly stores in our community. We cannot just settle for the hamburger and the taste. We'll fight for our share of contracts and jobs and products and goods and services. Cut us in or cut it out. You know, in the way you're going to build a White Castle store about 3 blocks from Elza Higginbotham's contract company, another house about where we live, building that building. And so we're building a jobs bank. If you're looking for a job or job training, put your name in the bank. We also have they're having a session upstairs even as we talk now. We train 200 flaggers this week. Say flaggers, flaggers, those who wave the signs, stop, slow, and go. Those flaggers make $41 an hour. Put your hand together. So we had people taking a 4-hour course. There'll be another course here on Monday morning at 10 o'clock, training people to be flaggers, just waving that flag for caution and stop and slow and go. Those jobs are $41 an hour. We demand our share of those jobs. We want our share of jobs and contracts right now. I was sharing with Cliff Kelly yesterday when Dr. King came to town. We were fighting ministers for jobs and rights. And while confronting National Tea Store, Robin, one day, Mr. Bush and Mr. Smith came over and said that we know you need jobs, but say we can build stores. Blacks built the first chain store on 47th and Calumet because we added the construction spoke. Then John said, we need Ebon and Jet in those stores. And then Sensac said, we need Defender and Crusader in those stores, Mr. LaVelle said. George said, we need in those stores our hair product. So in every store, our products must be on the shelf. Our masons must have the right to build a store. We're not marching for welfare. We're marching for fair share and our share right now. So Mike, on this coming Thursday night at 6 to 8 o'clock, if you're interested in being a flagger or a construction worker, and when I say construction worker, that's at every level. I mean, construction work involves architects and truckers and painters and glazers. All these unemployed black men. Illinois is the #1 state in black unemployment in the country. #1, so there's no reason for us to be #1 in unemployment. But we are #1 in unemployment. We'll now become #1 in fighting back. Say fight back. Fight back. Can you imagine making $41 an hour doing the flagging? It's important because those are caution signs and those are skill jobs. And we train people. And so if you are interested in being a flagger, be here and meet with Omar Sharif, head of our labor, at Monday morning, 10 o'clock, 50th and Drexel Boulevard in Chicago. We want you who are listening and watching around the country on the Impact Network, you have the same thing happening in your place. If you go to a restaurant and there are no black waiters, call us. If you go to a banquet and there are no black waiters or waitresses, call us. We can say we're going to Rush Street to stand up, not just to sit down. So every hotel, every restaurant, every construction job, on every highway, we want our share of those jobs. Put your hands together. We're concerned about the violence in our community. Unemployment is economic violence. Being denied the right to flag cars where you live at $41 an hour, that's economic violence. Being denied the right to build a restaurant is economic. Being denied the right to build a black church is violent and stupid. So we have the right to build our churches, our restaurants, and our schools. We're going to put Americans back to work. Hashtag Black Jobs Matter. Hashtag Black Jobs Matter. Hashtag Black Jobs Matter. Say, I am somebody. I want to work. I can work. I must work. I want to work. I can work. I must work. I want my share of jobs and contracts. Put your hand together. In summation of our convention on this past week, we opened up on last Wednesday with the work of Rod Hutnick from Intel. Intel's putting up $300 million. Part of it to hook up black colleges with Silicon Valley, part to hire workers, and part for small business loans. That night we gave a couple hundred scholarships. We got 25 children working at Toyota. They get $25,000 a year in scholarships for 3 years. Those are $75,000 scholarships. They work there in the summertime. They drive cars back and forth to work. We're connecting our children with the workforce. On that Thursday morning was a labor breakfast focusing on temporary workers. In Illinois alone, almost 1 million people work, but they'll work 89 days and then lay them off. They work without benefits. They work 30 hours, one of them work 40 hours. That is economic exploitation. At noontime, we had our luncheon. Tremendous Reverend Jeremiah Wright was honored. Give Reverend Jeremiah Wright a big hand. Father Flaker, put your hand together. Reverend Andrew Young, put your hand together. Reverend C.T. Vivian, put your hand together. A great speech by Reverend Al Sharpton on this past Thursday, that minister's luncheon. On Friday, we had Mr. From Richard Cordray from Consumer Protection. They said, black people pay more for cars, pay more for houses, pay more for land, pay more for rent, pay more for taxes. We work harder, pay more, far less, live under stress, and don't live as long. Work harder, pay more, far less, live under stress, and don't live as long. It's time for a change. Put your hands together. Time for a change. Last Saturday morning, we heard from the dynamic singer, Audrey DuBois Harris. Give her another hand. What a singer. What a singer. Bernie Sanders was one of our keynote speakers on last week. Elected officials from around the state and around the nation. In a matter of, so we've already begun, Mike, following through. Following through is here. Every store on every corner is in somebody's ward. In somebody's ward. Councilman, we're going to march on the stores and you. We demand, every councilman demand a formula for development. When Dorothy Tillman was alderman, one of the things she did was so profound. She said, if it's built in our community, it should be 75-25 black. If it's 50, even if it's 50-50, it's better than nothing than 100. We demand a formula. There's a formula for making biscuits, a formula for making cornbread, there's a formula for cooking pork chops, a formula for cooking cakes. There must be a formula for our share of jobs and contracts where we live. I want to say lastly, before I bring on Brother Jonathan, I'm so proud of, aren't you proud of Jonathan Jackson? Isn't Jonathan growing? Mahan, who is our musician now, Mr. Mahan, I want you to do a little of that Walk On By Faith, that song you were doing last week, a little of that in just a minute. But I do want to say that we cannot complain our way from Egypt to Canaan. Don't just describe how mean Pharaoh is. Don't just describe how hard the work is. Organize and march to Canaan. Those who don't march to Canaan deserve slavery. One thing worse than slavery is to adjust. One thing worse than unemployment is to adjust. We're going to march in our neighborhood, march on Rush Street, march on hotels. We demand our share of waiters and waitresses and construction workers. We demand it right now. Okay, now I want to hear a song from Brother Mahan. And the next voice you would hear would be my friend and my son, who is growing by leaps and bounds. Say, Jonathan is trying to outrun his shadow. He's trying to run through raindrops and not get wet. He's trying to run from preaching, but he will not succeed. Put your hands together.
We come this far by faith, leaning on the Lord, oh, trusting in His holy word. He's never failed me yet. Singing, oh, 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 can't turn around. No, we come this far by faith. We come this far by faith. Oh, leaning on the Lord. Oh, trusting. He's never failed me yet. Oh, singing, oh, 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 can't turn around. We come this far by faith. We come this far by faith, leaning on the Lord, yeah. Oh, it's trusting, yeah. He's never failed. Singing, no, oh, oh, I can't. Oh, because we come this far by faith. We come.
Give a hand for Mahan. Let me say to those who are watching today, the struggle we're fighting for is worth your investing. I want you to join Rainbow Push. Go to your website right now, rainbowpush.org, rainbowpush.org, or on Twitter at Rev J. Jackson, and Facebook, Reverend Jesse L. Jackson Sr. right now. We're engaging in some major fights this fall. 2 big elections, one in New Jersey, one in Virginia. We must win these fights, but it costs to fight. And we need you to listen. And our telephone number is 773-256-2775, 753-773-256-277. Right now, brothers and sisters, our national spokesman, Brother Jonathan Jackson.
Good morning, Rainbow Push family and friends. I come to you with a heavy heart today. I take this assignment from my father and my mother seriously at this podium at the Rainbow Push headquarters. This is the people's forum and the people's platform. There's no Jackson proprietary anything here. We ask that God would use us as He so chooses. We try to make this world a little bit of heaven on earth. And I think it's important that I share with you today not only some things that have happened nationally in civil rights, but someone that meant something so much to our family. And you should know where people really come from that you listen to. I owe that to you. I seldom share stories of my children, family. I like for them to find their way and make their life meaningful in their own way. They're not destined to be here. I wasn't destined to be here. But when I got put in the back of that police car on 26th Street, having been through so many demonstrations and marches with my father for so many years, and my children were coming of age and they were in their grammar school, and we never had the conversation about who is Grandpa, but I knew it was coming. And then every year at Black History Month, when they could see a little higher and see Grandpa on the wall, they finally recognized that is my grandpa on that wall. So one day my son came home, he was shaken up, he was upset, and he said that he saw Grandpa on the wall for Black History Month. And a child told him, no, that's not your grandfather on the wall. He says, oh, yes, he is. That is my grandfather. And so I assured him Grandpa in person is Grandpa on the wall. And his chest went back out. He went back to school and told that child, that is my grandfather. And where's your grandfather on the wall? Well, my grandmother has died. My mother's mother has passed away. Her soul has gone on to the home of the ages. Her great-grandchildren have lost a great-grandmother this past week. What do I want you to know and a lesson that you can learn from my grandmother, Gertie? Gertrude Davis, my mother's mother. Dad, I thought I cried my last tear. And people can be so cruel. Some people have said, I heard your grandmother's sick, and they would say, she had a great life. I'm like, she's not dead. Then they say, how old is she? Well, yeah, it's time. Just a word on bedside manners. If you can't say anything good, just please be quiet. And it's not like the longer you've known her, the easier it gets. You know it's inevitable, but it hurts all the more because they've been with you so long. Grandma Gertrude. Who is Grandma Gertrude? And to so many people, she's just another old lady. But to me, she's so much of my world. But I thank God today, before I share with you some remarks on her, I thank God today for my grandmother, Gertrude. I thank God today for my grandmother, Mother Helen. I thank God today for my great-grandmother, Mama Tibby. Thank God today for my great-granduncle, Uncle Foster. I thank God today for my mother and father still being here. I thank God today that my children knew their grandparents on both sides of the family. When I want to feel sad, I have to go into my Gertrude mode and have an attitude of gratitude, because my grandmother never looked back. Where is she from? She's from Florida. She was an orphan at 12. First child born at 14. The neighbors raised her. She comes from a town called Pahokee, Florida. I'd be surprised if you've ever heard of it. On the other side of Lake Okeechobee. She's one of the children that grew up in the muck. In the muck, I said. There's a language down there by the Creek people. C-R-E-E-K, the Creek people. It's a culture where the Florida Seminoles, not the football team, but that's a real group of people. The Muskegee people, when you hear Muskegee, Oklahoma, they're a fierce and a fighting people. Her mother was Miss Aronia. My great-great-grandmother was Aronia. I understand my family's history on both sides of the family. I can chase my father's lineage way past Haney Street to the 1700 graves in Crete in Cripple Creek, South Carolina. We really do know where we're come from. His bloodline has a lot of Cherokee in it. You see my father's features. And my mother, she grew up in a Florida Seminole culture, a town in Pahokee. The language was called the Muck because the land is rich. It's where the sugar canes grow, where the young people have to work in the fields. Grandma grew up picking peas, stripping beans. Life sent her an ugly hand, but she found a way to dig down deep and to overcome. My grandmother, I don't know what kind of service we're gonna have when we get to DC, because she was very specific in her request, Dad. She didn't want a funeral. Never went to church with my grandmother one day in her life. I don't know what happened with her and the church, but if the church wasn't building up the people, she couldn't understand what it was for. She had a spirit that she understood that God wanted us to live out his deeds, not just recite holy creeds. In the words of the Reverend Martin Luther King when he talked about pious irrelevancy and sanctimonious trivialities, Grandma had a do something kind of spirit. She wanted to lead by example. I am the great-grandchild of a teenage mother. She would laugh when we got older, when we started having our children. She says, you'll never have the fun with your grandchildren and great-grandchildren like I had with mine. I'm not mad at a teenage mother. My mother was a teenage mother. My grandmother is a teenage mother. Help the child. You don't know what's in store for their future. Grandma Gertrude comes up out of the muck, stayed married over 55 years, coming from being an orphan child, always hoping, always believing, always knowing and thriving and working, knowing that there was going to be a better day. Even when she couldn't see it, even when she couldn't find the scriptures to articulate it, she knew if you just kept your hand in God's hand. She wasn't Bible thumping. She wasn't quoting. She got up early every morning. Even when we went to stay with her on vacation, we had to get up, wake up, put some clothes on. Then you can lie back down in bed, but you don't sit around your house all day long in no pajamas. Always had a meal at her house, even after she worked all day long. And sometimes if it wasn't a turkey that she baked that day, it was some fish stick that she warmed up. She loved fish sticks. God blessed her, an orphan child, Dad, to see her great-grandchild off to college. I went to the school's shop where you can buy all the paraphernalia. And I bought the cousin of, the son of, the uncle of, the nephew of, all those t-shirts. The grandmother of. But you know where I couldn't find Dad? There was no great-grandchild of t-shirt in the bookstore. She was blessed to see her great-grandchild off to college. It's unnatural, brothers and sisters, when we are burying our children. And I see too many grandmothers burying their great-grandchildren. Something's wrong, brothers and sisters. But who is Gertrude Brown? A woman that was fiercely loyal, independent. She was a fighter. So if you want to understand me, if you want to understand my mother, you have to understand my mother's mother. A child that was grown, raised in the muck, a town of 6,000 people near Lake Okeechobee. One weekend, I was with my brother Jesse Jr., And we were talking about what a time we had in South Beach. And Grandma sat there with a stare on her face that was blank. Then we said, Grandma, but you're from Florida. How was South Beach when you were growing up? She said, son, when I was growing up, we had to have a passport to go to Miami Beach. She said, I've never seen Miami Beach. I said, no. I turned away and I cried. I said, Junior, let's go down and see where Grandma is from. Because I just want to see my grandmother's feet touch the same segregated South Beach that she never could as a child. So much has happened in her lifetime. Born in the year 1927. We're talking about Charles Lindbergh was trying to fly. We're talking about the great Mississippi River was flooding. It's 1927 in New York City. They started building the Holland Tunnel. And here comes a child from Pahokee, Florida. I can't even get the name right. To this day, there are about 6,000 residents. It was a bad town then, and it's a bad town now. When we went back to the town, so she could see her friends, everyone she ran up to that she thought she knew, that was the child or the grandchild. Everyone her age was dead and gone. You saw what happened in Florida this week on the news, where the children were sitting there laughing at someone drowning in the lake. Oh, that's Florida. That's the Florida she grew up in. They used to feed little black babies to alligators. Florida's been cruel. Florida has more children to this day that have lifetime sentences than any other state in America. I'm talking about the orange groves and the Sunshine State. I'm talking about the Florida Seminoles and the football and the sugar canes. There's still a level of slavery in Florida to this very day. You look at the other end up here in Minneapolis. We saw Philando Castile get killed. Now they're making out a black officer killing a white woman to be bigger than all the other cases of policemen shooting. If it's a black man shooting a white woman, that's just as wrong as a white man shooting a black man. Gertrude would want to have something to say about that. And it hurts me, but I feel healed to know when my grandmother would tell me, I saw you on Push this Saturday. I said, grandmother, she's like so many people out there in television and radio land. Grandma Gertrude's not going to carry a picket sign. Grandma Gertrude worked civil service jobs. Grandma Gertrude minded her own business. But Grandma Gertrude told me something, because I didn't know this made her proud to see me here. She says, Jonathan, black folks haven't always been able to tell white folks what's on our minds. I want you to keep on speaking and keep on telling people the truth. She grew up in Florida in 1927. They were still lynching black folks. She had to run out of there with my grandfather to get to Newport News, Virginia. Finally, they bought another house in Hampton. Who is Grandma Gertrude? Her and my grandfather built their own house. Never borrowed, never begged, didn't have a mortgage. When they did have a little savings, they bought a piece of land so they could make their own corn and some vegetables so they could save. Who is Grandma Gertrude? Never knew her to take a vacation. She wanted to sacrifice for a future generation. Do we have any more grandmas like that that are laying a foundation for the next generation? My father told you, after her 4 children went to college and it wasn't afforded to her as a teenage mother, she told me, Jonathan, I never wanted to be ignorant. She said, I worked in the kitchen because I had to, but I always wanted an education. Al, she told me the closer our people were to slavery, the smarter we were because we didn't forget. So when she got through at 4 a.m. getting up every morning, I never saw my grandmother sleeping. She was up before us, and by the time we got up at noon, she was back in the house making lunch so we can go on out to eat. She rearranged her schedule so she could be with us. When I didn't have college ambitions of my own, word got to Grandma, and she saw me, and she had her little curly hands that were wrinkled real tight from washing so many dishes. She kind of pinched me and grabbed my hand real tight. And she pulled me close, and I could see the little whisker on her chin. And she had them steely eyes and looked through me. And she says, "Are you going to college?" The answer was yes. Where, I didn't know, but the answer was yes. You need a grandmother that's gonna lead by example. She was in college at the time when she asked me, was I going to college? When we were in college in Greensboro, North Carolina A&T, we could drive up to Hampton and come there, and Grandma didn't have gospel albums out. In 1987, 88, she had Michael Jackson on. Grandma was cool. She didn't drink, she didn't smoke, had a box of candy in the refrigerator and in the freezer. Never knew until she was sick, because she never spent a night in the hospital, that the doctor said she had a low-level blood sugar. Grandma needed some candy. Dad, the only thing she ever asked me for in life was to take her to the grocery store, and will you please make me one of those sweet potato pies? But then she told me, unlike the rest of them, make mine just a little sweeter for me. Grandma loved sweet. Grandma didn't have a sweet tooth, she had sweet teeth. Every last one of her teeth needed some sugar. When she went to get her cataracts removed just the other year, the woman asked her, she says, before I give you this anesthesia, you should take your teeth out. She was 89. Grandma started laughing. Then the woman was clearly getting irritated and frustrated and says, but you should take your dentures out before I give you this anesthesia. Gertrude didn't have anything, never endowed, never given a thing. But what the good Lord did give her was some teeth. And she appreciated everything the good Lord gave her. I had to tell the woman, my grandmother heard you. She's laughing because she has all of her natural teeth. She took care of them. Didn't have much, but she appreciated everything that she had. So I ask that you continue to hold my family up in prayer. And I ask that you give an extra dose of prayer to my mother, and I thank God for my Aunt Connie. I want to say thank you to my father, my mother, for showing me by deed, not in creed. My grandmother never wanted for a thing in her whole life. You don't have to go to a nursing home. I'm making a shout out to some senior citizens. You ought to talk to some of these children. You ought to know some of your children. You ought to try to get into your grandchildren and your great-grandchildren's world so they will remember you. It's not all about us. You really don't have to die lonely. But if you never cared about somebody when they were young, they're going to forget you when you get old. Grandma didn't die alone. And on that last day that I saw her, I remember her just holding on with her last breath. She went out on her terms. She'll be interned at Arlington Cemetery with my grandfather. And I want to say thank God for you, Uncle Saint. Thank God for the Creek, Florida Seminole people. Thank God for the Cherokees in South Carolina. I want to say thank God for all of those people that got a spirit of fighting back, a spirit of never surrendering, a spirit of coming from the muck, a spirit of seeing your children reach the highest level. I hope to make you proud, Grandma.
together. Come on, Mayhan.
Oh, as around the sun, the earth knows she's revolving, and there's still unknown the bloom in early May. Just as all is born is new, you know what I say is true. I'll be loving you always. I'll be loving you always. Just as hate love that's secure, you rest your mind ashore. I'll be loving you always. 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 Yeah. Always. Yeah.
Together. Let's hear for Jonathan Jackson and old Grandma Gertie. Washington, Monday morning, 11 o'clock at Rankin Chapel. Let me make this appeal before I leave, and I want Jeanette to finish this for me. I want you who are watching today and listening, don't take our work for granted. Don't take the broadcast for granted. Our closing down stores that segregate against us, fighting for waiters and waitresses. We need you to go to your website right now, www.rainbowpush.org, and make a donation on the air or call us right now. We are on station 90 million households. I want to thank Bishop Jackson and Impact out of Detroit for their work. And Mayhan, that song that you and that y'all was doing last week, I want y'all to do it again right now. If you'll give at least $100, please stand. You'll give at least $100, please stand. We need you. We need your support. You'll sacrifice and give at least $100, please stand, whoever you are. Thank you so much. Keep standing. Thank you. You'll give at least $100. Mike, stand up right now. Brother Wee, Stoudemire, you'll give at least $100, please stand, whoever you are right now. We need your support. If you're not a member, you'd like to join Push today, raise your hand. You'd like to join today, raise your hand. If you want to be in the job, you want your name in the jobs bank, raise your hand, in the jobs bank. You want to be a waiter or waitress or a flagger, raise your hands. Put your name in the jobs bank today. Put your name in the jobs bank today. Today. Listen to our people. We meet here on Monday morning at 10 o'clock training flaggers who make $41 an hour. And Thursday night, 6 o'clock, Brother Omar Sharif will be conducting a meeting on workers on this coming Thursday night at 6 o'clock. You'll give at least $50, please stand, whoever you are. You'll give at least $50, stand, whoever you are. Thank you so much. Bless you. Bless you. You give at least $25. Won't you stand now? Stand wherever you are. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. You'll give at least $25. Please stand wherever you are today. You'll give something. Stand. Raise your hand. You'll give something. You'll give something. Every expression counts. Every bit matters. We need your support. Attorney Jeanette Wilson, who was on there marching yesterday with the freedom fighters, give her a big hand. Sister Jeanette, give her a hand. Patty. I appeal to get you to join. Don't take it for granted. We're going to be we'll be fighting for jobs and justice all over America. We're tired of being on the bottom. We're going to fight back for our share of jobs and job training and contracts. we will stabilize our families. One more time, we will stabilize our families. I forgot to tell you, Sister McMorris, upstairs, we should have it next week down here, Jeanette. We have items to be, the new Rainbow Push store upstairs. You can purchase items now, t-shirts and caps and all that we'll have displayed. But you want to buy a rainbow t-shirt, a cap or whatever, on the second floor, you can get them today. Give Ms. McMorris a big hand. Thank you, Bertha. Give Bertha McMorris a big hand. If you've not yet given, you will give now. You'll give now, please stand. You'll give now, please stand. Give now, you'll stand. Please stand. You'll give now. You'll join today. $35 for adults to join today, $15 for seniors. You'll join the Rainbow Coalition today. Please stand. You will join today. Mike has money and $2 stingy to give right now, and his name is Mike. I'm trying not to call his name, but he's got money. He's sitting on it. He made like he's too big to get up. Start him out, he has money. Continue, Jeanette.
For those of you who don't have cash, we do allow you to swipe your credit card. This young lady standing right here can take a swipe. So if you want to give $50 or more, $25 or more, $100 or more on your credit card, you can. Swipe right here. I know you can. I believe you will. Those of you who want to give something, and we're going to, I want you to stand if you want to give something, any amount. Y'all enjoying the program so far? I need you to show some kind of sign. I need you to stand and give something. And maybe if you hear the testimony of Attorney Stallworth, it will give you a sense of the kind of issues that PUSH fights for. As Reverend Jackson is preparing to leave to go back to Washington to be with Mrs. Jackson and the family, the struggles that we are engaged in, we marched on yesterday and closed an operation at White Castle so that we could create jobs. Has everybody had a chance to give? Who has not given that wants to give? EY and Olivier. They're going to give you some music in just a second. I want Attorney Stallworth to come while we're still live streaming and while we're still broadcasting to share his story that he is now reduced to art that you can purchase and view so that you can see some of the struggles that some of our African-American males experience every day. Here you have a lawyer that has been impacted negatively by the criminal justice system. Won't you greet him warmly, Attorney Stallworth.
Thank you very much. Good morning. Out of respect for your time, I'll be very brief. As Ms. Wilson said, my name is Stan Stallworth. Until December of 2013, I was a partner in the largest law firm here in Chicago. In December 2013, I was wrongfully accused of a heinous crime. And it is my belief that the City of Chicago Police, that the Cook County investigators and the state prosecutors of Illinois knew that they could not prove that I committed a crime that I did not commit. But they pursued me, they prosecuted the case in a way that was just the most degrading experience that a man could ever have. They never investigated any of my neighbors as witnesses. They never came to see the alleged crime scene. They never conducted any sort of corroborative things that would give them corroborative evidence. Rather, they just continued a case for 24.5 months, kept my life on hold intentionally, I believe, ruined a career, caused health conditions. But this movement that I am doing is not about me. Over those 24.5 months of visiting Cook County at 26 in California, I saw thousands and thousands of young black men come through that court system. And many of them were carted away to jail. Some of them did not have their public defenders with them when they were charged or when they were sentenced. Some of them didn't understand what the process was. Now here I was, a partner with the resources, with the know-how, with the savvy, with the family support, and with the support of a lot of friends who knew that I did not commit that crime. And they treated me this way. So my perspective was, what would they do to that young man on 79th Street? And the answer is, put him in jail, whether he did the crime or not. Offer him 3 years instead of 12, and he's going to take it because he doesn't have the resources to fight. And so I have reduced these thoughts of mine into a very creative, I think, art exhibit that's over at 2635 South Wabash. I'm not doing this just because of my love of art, but it is an expression of the social justice issues that are going on, not just here in Chicago, but across this not so great country of ours. If you have a chance over the next couple of days, please stop by and look at what we've done. If your funds will allow you, buy some artwork, because the profits from this show are going to assist me in creating some reentry programs to help those young black men and young black women get their lives back on track. Because many times they come out, they have no home to go to, they have no job training or career skills. And so that has become a goal of mine over the next 50 years. I'm sure I'll be around. That was number one. I'm gonna be very brief, Ms. Wilson. I was shocked today to learn that ACCA was meeting here this morning. My specialty was real estate, and my specialty within real estate was contracting, development and construction. As I thought back over the many big deals I did in this city, including some for the city of Chicago, I sat there this morning and could not think of a deal that had one black contractor on it. That is a sad indictment of this city. What I would like to do, Ms. Wilson and Reverend Jackson, in your absence, I would like to dedicate some time to assisting this association, because I know the issues, I understand the issues, and I'd be happy to lend my professional services. Thank you. And Judge Faith will be with us tonight over at 2635 South Wabash from, I forget the network, but she's going to be here, she's going to MC, and she's going to greet her fans here in Chicago. Thank you so much for this opportunity.
And that's part of our Innocence Project. Jonathan started the Innocence Project at Rainbow Push with Johnny Savory. And so we are going to be bringing people like Attorney Stallworth. You know we're going to put him to work, Mike. Thank you for bringing him. As we begin to shut down construction sites, close restaurants, we're not going to eat where we're not able to serve. We're not going to shop where we're not able to build and supply. And we're not going to have developers that don't use black lawyers and black accountants. And so we're fighting for our share of jobs and contracts. As the young people stand, all of our STEM and sports students, won't you stand now so that you can go to your respective places. Stand and go towards the back. Just the STEM kids, give them a round of applause as they go to class. And now I know you want to know what's going on. Won't you stand? Everybody else stand. Don't leave yet. We're going to join hands.
There's so many of you crying. Whoa. Brothers. There's far too many of us dying.
And we ask now that the Lord bless you and keep you. The Lord make his face to shine upon you, and the Lord be gracious unto you and grant you his everlasting peace. Go in peace.
Father, fathers, we don't need to escalate. It's not the answer. 'Cause only love can conquer hate. You know we've gotta find a way to bring picket signs. Don't punish me with brutality. Talk to me, yeah. You can see what's going on. What's going on? Gotta know what's going on. Mothers, everybody's saying that we're wrong. Oh, but who are they to judge me? Simply 'cause I may just wanna wear my hand long. You know we've got to find a way to bring back love again here today. Picket lines, picket signs, don't punish me. Oh Lord, with brutality, talk to me. You can see what's going on. What's going on?